Okay, welcome to class. It's October 30th, so it's time to begin our new week on classroom response systems, a new unit too, I should say, on classroom response systems. And yeah, we'll have a bunch of various activities to prepare for an assignment that's coming up. So you'll look at some of these tools, Plickers, Kahoot, Poll Everywhere, and Socrative, to name a few. And you'll be learning a little bit more about these in this video, as well as learning about them on your own. You'll do some readings. Textbook pages 199 to 207, and then for graduate only, there's benefits and challenges of online response systems. And it's good to know about the research. That's why I share these research articles, is because there are people who've done some studies on these different subjects and different topics, and you can learn more about what they've found from the research. And then finally, there's a classroom response systems discussion. Now, this is a discussion in quotes because it's actually an activity. You explore one or two of the classroom response systems that we've been learning about, and those are the classroom response tools listed there in class. Create a few sample lessons in this classroom response system, and then share a link to the classroom response system questions, if possible, so that others can view them. And some of these systems will allow this, some of them will not, but if it's not possible, you can just write in the questions you made and tell what classroom response system you tried out. And this should get you a chance to get into possible systems for your assignments, kind of understand ones. And remember to post your own response by Wednesday and respond to at least 2 other students' posts by the end of the week. So let's see if we can be innovative in our use of classroom response systems as well. If you've already used them before, then you're probably not learning anything new by creating a few questions, but maybe there's a new way you can think about making those questions more authentic or more effective or more interesting or engaging to students than just the basics that you've been doing, because that's the point, right? We're here to learn. Anyway, that's the assignment. Those are the assignments for this week. It's kind of getting you ready though for an assignment due in a couple of weeks away. So 3 weeks, about November 18th, there is a classroom response presentation due, and what you're going to do for this is you're going to create and teach a lesson that makes use of a live classroom response system. And so this is one where you actually do have to teach it to a group, and you'll need to adapt your lesson based on responses provided by your students. And so big emphasis there on adapting the lesson based on responses provided by your students. In other words, if they're getting a bunch of answers wrong, you're probably going to have to recover that content to make sure that they are learning what they're supposed to be learning, because that's the point of a classroom response system, really, is to be able to adapt to students and their needs. The questions you ask and items you include in your classroom responses should help you determine if your students have learned the material, so you can further explain items that the class may have missed. The items you include in your classroom responses can also foster class discussion and interactivity. So it doesn't just have to be review questions or the basics. It could also be something that fosters some kind of a discussion or other interactivity in your class. In preparation for this lesson, you need to set up and prepare any required software and settings on devices and computers, and show classroom responses on the projector during the lesson, on a projector during the lesson, or maybe even on a TV screen or an iPad if you are not a classroom teacher. Some possible technologies and tools that you can use to receive classroom responses include Plickers, Poll Everywhere, Kahoot, Socrative, Smart Response VE Systems, TweetBeam, and Pinboard such as Linuit or Padlet, or a Twitter back channel. But really, I'm kind of pushing you toward the first 4 there, Plickers, Poll Everywhere, Kahoot, or Socrative. Okay, so for classroom teachers, I would like to have a recording of the class lesson with audio and video of you completing the lesson. This is much like the other one that we did long ago, the one-to-one experience. And remember, in that experience, I told you don't do a classroom response system because that's what we want to do here instead. So that's why we did that. And then also provide a reflection for the experience. So not just the video, but also include this time a reflection for the experience that answers these questions. How well did it go? What did your learners think about being able to use a classroom response system? What would you change about the lesson if you were to teach it again? What issues or problems came up? What really went well? And what did you do that went above and beyond a normal lesson in your classroom? So again, I'm asking for you to kind of go above and beyond just a normal lesson in your classroom. Maybe if Kahoot is something that you do all the time, it's time to think a little bit beyond that and to try to something different, either a different system or a different way of asking those questions or interacting and so forth. So that's for classroom teachers, which we have quite a few in our class. Down below is for students who are not yet in the classroom or not classroom teachers. And that might include administrators too. You might not have a classroom that you can easily access. So in this case, you can find a group to present to of at least 3 students. And I put students in quotes because it could be your roommates or colleagues or whoever. And set it up so that you can receive responses from all students, then present a lesson to them and record that so that I can see that as well, and then also do the same reflection. But in this case, you're not doing it to a whole classroom, and that's okay. Just find people and find at least 3 students to set it up so that you can present to them. So it's going to take a little bit of time for setting up, and so I moved this back into November 18th. That gives you 3 weeks to kind of plan for it, but now would be the time to get started on it and thinking about who you might have come if you don't have a classroom that you can teach this to. So that's the assignment. And I just do want to emphasize learning something new as part of this. So a lot of teachers probably use classroom response systems. They're not super new, although they may be new to you. If they are brand new to you and you haven't used them much so far, then whatever you do for this assignment will be a good learning experience for you. But let's say that you use a lot of different classroom response systems already, then I do want to challenge you, if you can, to find something different to use. Maybe if you've never used Plickers or Poll Everywhere, be it an opportunity to learn a new tool and have that in your toolbox as a teacher. Or if there is some way that you have used a tool but not a different way that you've always wanted to try out, or something that you've heard about, this would be a good opportunity to do that as well for this assignment. So I want to encourage that, to learn something new, and then also adjust for students. When you do teach this lesson, make sure that you do adjust for students who may not get the responses right. So it does need to be at a challenge level enough that you might have some students maybe responding incorrectly, and then you can help to cover those gaps in their knowledge, I guess I would say, so that they understand those kinds of things. Okay, well, let's talk about the different systems that are available. This is Plickers, P-L-I-C-K-E-R-S. And you can set up classes in Plickers, and what's great about this tool is it's a classroom response system that allows you to have a classroom response experience without devices. So all you need is the one device that has a camera on it to be able to scan the cards that students hold up, but they will just have cards. They don't have to have a laptop or a tablet. They can just hold up a card a certain way and it will respond. That will be their response method. And so in Plickers, let me go to cards here. There are these cards that they create for you. You can get a free standard set and print it out. And each one of these cards is for one student, and they hold that up a certain way, and they might hold it up with A on top, or B on top, or D, or C. And depending on how they hold it up, that's how they respond to your question. So there are cards that you can print for free, and you can use this all for free. And if you go to set up your class, you can add a new class and put in information and hit save, and then you can add in student names very quickly and just name them in there, or you can add a roster if you have a roster to copy in there. And that sets up your class in Plickr. And then you go to your library and you can add a new question. And these are the types of questions that you can do in Plickers. There are actually only 2 types, multiple choice or true or false, and that's because of the way the cards are. There's only A, B, C, or D to respond to. So and I could do a true or false question. Maybe this is about some literature. And then it says true or false, and I can hit it. It's true, there is a leak in the kitchen sink, and save and create new, or I click save, and that creates a new question. But the real trick is when I go to my iPad, I can actually bring up Plickers and show and scan this question to students. So here I am on my iPad, and you can do this with an iPhone as well, and I think it works on Android devices as well. You just have to download the Plickers app, and you open up that app, and let me get that out of the way. Okay, so I have my classes here, and I just created that math class, and I'm ready to choose that as my class to do this. And then I can go to library, and I can choose that question that I just created, and I can hit scan now. And what this does is it actually allows me to use my camera on my device, and I have the students hold up their cards in the class, and then I scan around the class by holding up my iPhone or my iPad. As it scans, it will tell me whose cards that it has detected in the class. And unfortunately, I don't have a good example right now of this, except that I can pull out a card real quick and just scan that. So I've got a card here, whoops, and it scans it and says, okay, here's what, let's see if I can get it to scan here. Well, I think it's used to scanning things from far away, but anyway, yeah, it says that now it shows me that it's got one scanned, and that person responded with a B. And then when I'm done, I can hit this check mark here, and it will show how students responded. Now at the same time here, if I go to live view under Plickers, this will show up on my projector, and it will give students the question that they should respond to so that they understand how to hold their card and such things. And I can also reveal the answer or hide it depending on how I want to have the question go. So Plickers, it's a fantastic tool for using or for doing classroom response when you have a classroom that is not a one-to-one classroom, when you don't have a device for every student. And many of you do not have that. And so Plickers is a great tool for being able to get some classroom response activities going. Now for the next tool, I've logged into Kahoot. And Kahoot is a fantastic tool for doing classroom response activities. What's great about this one, well, what's a drawback, I guess, to this one is that it requires you to have one-to-one devices. So each student has to have some kind of device, although that device could be a phone or an iPad. It doesn't necessarily have to be a laptop, but it certainly can be. And Kahoot is kind of a race type one. It's kind of a quick review type system. It's not the kind that goes too slowly. It has a time limit for each question, or by default anyway. And so in order to create a Kahoot, you can hit New Kahoot, and you can go to a quiz, a jumble, a survey, or discussion. Usually quiz is what I've seen used. And you can title it something. And it's visible to everyone and so forth, and you hit OK, go. Oh, I guess I have to choose my audience. Okay, so you go to Kahoot, and it asks you to use tags and so forth. And what's kind of cool about this too is whatever Kahoots I create, I can actually share those online. And so you might find a bunch of Kahoot objects or quizzes that are already created that you could use in your class. And so here we go. We're creating a quiz. We go to a question here. And we'll just do a simple math equation. We'll give a 20-second time limit. And answer 1, 2, 3, and 4 are possible answers. And then we want to check the correct answer here to make sure that that's the right, Kahoot knows that it's the right one. And then we hit next. We can add another question if we want to, or just save this quiz. And it's called Math Quiz, and it has one question. And when we're ready, I could have multiple questions on here, and in fact it's better to have a bunch of questions because students really like to get different scores, and the score adds up through questions, and so there might be, again, it's very competitive because one student might win the whole round if they respond faster, and if they get the question right, then they will win the whole round. And we can hit play it. And there are different modes for playing it, but you can go ahead and create a played opportunity, and it says join at kahoot.it with game pin there, and students actually do have to enter this information into their device, and it has music that kind of gets them going, and then they do the quiz. And so that's Kahoot in a very small nutshell, but you'll want to learn about this if you don't know about it already.